What is going on, good people, man? We are in the house tonight. Feels good to be back. Got an exciting episode for you guys here. Really a question, right? Time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's the question that we have for tonight. And earnings season preview. You guys know, man, I love earnings season. Every single time we have earnings season, I come in and do my address and I get this party started and get it rolling. So we got an action-packed show tonight. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing started. Hopefully everyone's doing well. And let's go, Vic. We got it.
That's 100.
All right, y'all. It is that time. It's that season. Once again, it's that season. Earnings season is here. We're going to talk about, certain stocks that are getting ready to report their earnings. We're going to talk about, is it time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum? That's been a topic that, I've definitely wanted to discuss. I told you guys beforehand that when it came to now this time of year, we're going to be thinking about everything really 2024. Q4 really gets us set up for 2024. And so the last part of this year, it's like really all hands on deck. We're putting everything we got into making 2024 better than any year that we had. So for me, it's all about the planning. The planning, and really before the planning is the pre-planning, because you got to pre-plan the plan. So once you had the plan, you could work the plan, right? So you got pre-plan the plan. Then once you had that pre-plan, you can go ahead and plan, and then you can work the plan, right? So 2024 for me, really my mindset is really all shifted, right, to Bitcoin and Ethereum. When it comes to, opportunities that are out there. I don't think you can mention even the year 2024 without mentioning Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the reason why I'm highlighting Bitcoin and Ethereum is because we know that crypto, moves in a 4-year lifespan, right? Or excuse me, 4-year cycle when it comes to its entirety and its lifespan, right? Every 4 years, we go through something which is called Bitcoin halving, right? Where the amount of supply that comes to market and in mind literally gets cut in half each and every single time, every 4 years. And so all the Bitcoin are projected to be mined by the year 2136. Now, for pretty much all of us, none of us will be here in the year 2136 unless they have some sort of devices they come out with to help people really live long time. People living to 130 years old, 140, 150. It's possible. Anything's possible, especially with today's technology. But let's get serious, y'all. So what do we have next, right? So we saw in 2016 when Bitcoin halving happened, right? What happened? Price of Bitcoin went from about 350 bucks, went all the way to 20,000. After it hit 20,000, Bitcoin got hammered all the way to the downside. Bitcoin kept getting smacked down. You saw a lot of people, really get shook out of their positions. All the institutions on CNBC, people said Bitcoin's at 20,000. It's a scam. It's a scam. It's not going to work out. Bitcoin's going to zero. And so it was a bunch of fear mongering that came in, and Bitcoin just got slaughtered. An asset, like Bitcoin went up really just so fast, right? It raced to 20,000. And, it was super at that point, it's hitting the mainstream media. People are getting into it because they're like, yo, I don't want to miss this thing. And then Bitcoin collapsed. And then the entire crypto market collapsed as well. Ethereum hit 1,500 in the year 2017. And it declined. So like early 2018, January and February of 2018, we entered what is called, crypto winter or Bitcoin winter. You may have heard that term used before. So it was some dark times for the crypto space. For the next 2 years, Bitcoin and Ethereum and virtually the crypto space did absolutely nothing. You saw Bitcoin hit maybe as high at about 13,100 and then just kept kind of tweening back and forth. And then all lo and behold, we had 2020 come around and Bitcoin having happened again. And towards the late part of 2020, we saw Bitcoin broke above over 20,000. And then early on in 2021, Bitcoin went on this run again and hit an all-time high of over $66,000. And so it tripled its pretty much its last, high from the previous Bitcoin halving. So we saw Bitcoin was able to take a step up. And we also saw Ethereum as well. Ethereum also tripled, actually a little bit more than tripled. Ethereum went all the way to $5,000, right? And so we've seen these cycles, right, where Bitcoin then, after these huge moves and these huge run-ups, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they end up dropping 70, 80% from their highs, right? It's happened. We have, Ethereum right now, last year Ethereum broke briefly under $1,000, but Ethereum has not been below $1,000 since then. Ethereum's been comfortably hanging around 15, 16, $1,700 over the past few months here. And if you think about it, right, just put this into context. And even Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's been kind of hanging around 28, 25, 27,000 here. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum, even right now, through the slaughtering that they've seen since pulling back from their respective all-time highs, they are actually still both higher than their late 2017, early 2018 highs that they saw. Even throughout all the noise, all the jargon that's been put out, Bitcoin's going to zero. It doesn't make sense. Institutions don't buy crypto. You've heard all of those things. And then I want to take things a step further, right? A lot of times people say that Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, are super volatile, which Bitcoin and Ethereum are volatile. Let me be very, 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 very clear. Bitcoin and Ethereum are volatile, but people act like Bitcoin and Ethereum is the only thing that's volatile. So let's talk about it. The stock market is volatile, is it not? Do I need to pull up the tickers? Do I need to start naming the tickers? Oh, let's go pull up Snapchat's chart. Snapchat hit $85, right? But then dropped all the way down. Snapchat ended up dropping all the way down to about $8 and change. Last time I checked, that's about a 90% drop. Oh, do I need to bring up Peloton? Peloton dropped from 175 to being a $5 stock. Do I need to bring up Lucid? Right? Lucid came in, it hit its mark, it hit its number, it hit its peak. And price was able, to go all the way up as it was transitioning to becoming, from becoming a company that came to market a different way via a SPAC. And then the price of it got slaughtered. Do I need to mention Rivian? Everyone said, oh, Rivion's going to be this. Rivion's going to be the next Tesla. Rivian literally opened up with a market cap of above $100 billion. And that had not even produced 100 cars yet. So I want to dispel this myth that in crypto, it's just so volatile and there's no other industry like this, right? Do I need, and people say, well, there's a lot of pumping and dumping in crypto. You're right. There is a lot of pumping and dumping, but there's also a lot of pumping and dumping in the stock market, specifically via those same type instruments. And we call them penny stocks, where people create discords, they create groups, and they come together and they pump money into these small penny stocks at 50 cents, looking to take that 50-cent penny stock to $5. It's the same thing that's been happening in the crypto space. So yes, you have a lot of bad actors in the crypto space. You do. You have a plethora of bad actors. You have a plethora of imposters, people who come together, create projects to raise capital, right? And they steal capital and they steal money from people, right? By doing these pump and dump schemes. But let's not act like we ain't had the same thing happen on Wall Street. The same thing happened, countless of times, especially, we've seen companies from the dot-com bubble, fall 97%, fall 99% from their highs and not recover. So a lot of times crypto gets a bad rep because truthfully, you cannot evaluate a stock the same way that you can evaluate a crypto. You see, with a company, you have revenue to go off of, you have earnings, you have different metrics to go off of. You cannot evaluate Bitcoin or Ethereum based upon a price to earnings ratio, because Bitcoin doesn't have earnings, right? Ethereum doesn't have earnings. So you can't use a cash on hand, debt to equity ratio, right? You can't use those actual terms and those resources when it comes to evaluating, right, a cryptocurrency company. It just isn't possible. It's just not going to happen. So what I encourage people to, really sit back and really, 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 really understand is that when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum, these things move in cycles. They move in cycles continuously over and over again. And like I said, every 4 years, we go through Bitcoin halving. So next year in May of 2024, we're going to go through Bitcoin halving again. I always talk about, one of the things that I love to invest in things when no one's talking about it, or when everyone kind of is bashing it. Because what I look at it is when everyone's bashing something, right, and the media's putting stuff out about it, a lot of times they're on the other end buying it. The reason they're bashing something is because they want you to sell it to them. They want you to get rid of everything that they're bashing. So they're going to be buying it, right? They're going to be buying it because they want to stockpile. They want to hoard. They want to build as big of a position as possible. So when it's time to blast off again, they really reap the benefits and the rewards and the return. So for me, I look at it as over the past 12 to 18 months, and the decline that we saw from Bitcoin and Ethereum, like I said, we saw a 75-80% decline in both those instruments and those assets. So what do I think, particularly about, these particular instruments here from where they're at right now? I think both these instruments, have incredible upside in a longer term fashion. I think why, right? So when I take a look at Bitcoin and I take a look at Ethereum, what they've been able to accomplish in as a short amount of period of time as they've been so far, it's been beautiful. It's been magical for both of these instruments and assets to still be above their 2017 prices is honestly just amazing. It's amazing the fact that they're both above their 2017 prices. And I think it's, truly something that people should look at and say, okay, like where is Bitcoin and Ethereum going next? Right? How can I understand Bitcoin a lot more? Right? Let's break it down. Bitcoin is a finite asset. So there's only going to be a limited amount of supply. This is finite. It's not infinite. So it's finite. There's a defined number of how many Bitcoins are actually out there. So it's a finite resource, right? So when we think about supply and demand, the less supply there is, but the more demand, what happens to price? So when Bitcoin becomes in heavy, large demand, which can happen with really just galvanizing some bullish sentiment around it, right? Which I think will happen soon as Bitcoin halving comes in and as it happens, and then that comes to pass, there's going to be some catalysts. Well, one of those catalysts is, the Federal Reserve is going to be lowering interest rates in the middle of the part of next year, right? So as they lower interest rates, that's going to put more money back in the consumer's hands, right? That APR is going to come down. That's going to, allow some people to now maybe start to enter, more into the real estate market. If mortgage rates come down, that qualifies more buyers, right? All of those different things are important to pay attention to in market cycles when it comes to your more riskier investments. Anytime the economy tightens, anytime monetary policy gets tighter, your more risky type investments always suffer the most, right? So, for example, you have your firms, your upstarts, your lending institutions, stocks. They've struggled. You've seen your growth companies, your companies that are not quite profitable yet, your companies that are on the path to becoming profitable, but are still putting in the work, right? Still putting in the investments, right? Still reinvesting the capital that they've gotten right back into the company to seek and see further gains. That's exactly what they've been doing, right? And so the rewards are going to be shown on the back end, right? Because anytime a company is reinvesting in itself, you're never going to, for the most part, see those rewards and those fruits right away. It usually comes on the back end, right? Most times than not. And so the back end work that's been being done for some of these growth companies, they're going to see benefits as interest rates when they start to fall. So, the question that's in the title tonight, is it time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum? And the answer is yes. It is time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And in my opinion, it's been time. Even when Bitcoin and Ethereum dropped as significantly as they did, a lot of times people think about this, right? They think about, well, when's the best time for me to buy an investment, right? And once again, I go back to the point when it's like when no one has it in their mouth. When I'm not seeing it come across CNBC like it's a paid advertisement every day. When I don't see people putting out crazy price targets, oh, Bitcoin's going to hit $250,000 by the end of the year. It's going to hit 250. Oh man, I think Bitcoin's going to hit 500,000 by the end of the year. Like, notice you don't hear none of that right now, right? Everything's quiet, and that is the time you want to really be stacking up and accumulating. So I think my personal opinion, I would stick to just only Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, some people come in, yo, but what about this altcoin? This altcoin looks like it's the future. If I get in this, it's it's $5. It can go to 50. It can go to 100. My comments when it comes to the altcoins is this: the altcoins only go as far as Bitcoin and Ethereum will take those altcoins. So when Bitcoin and Ethereum go back up and they move back higher, you're going to be able to see, your particular altcoins, right? You're probably going to see a few of those things go up 300, 400, 500%. But it won't be until Bitcoin and Ethereum start to get their trains rolling again. So I think trying to be premature and trying to pick these smaller cryptos, you can get your head knocked off, right? Because some of these projects are not necessarily even verifiable. Once again, you have a lot of bad projects in the crypto space. Once again, a lot of pumping and dumping. But one of the biggest things I wanted to cover with you guys is the same thing happens on Wall Street, right? You can see, like, I think people kind of forget, like, you can see a stock that you invest in go down 90%. It's definitely very possible, and it happens a lot of times more than what people think. A lot of these companies, they fail. They fail. So, one of the things that you have an edge, though, in the stock market is you're able to evaluate a company based upon its earnings, its revenue, its cash on hand, its debt to equity, its ROE, its return on equity to its shareholders, those different things, its price to earnings ratio. You have different metrics and to be able to measure. In the crypto space, you are not able to measure it in that same fashion, which makes a lot of these smaller projects super risky because you're having to rely on what is called a white paper, where a white paper will explain to you the use case, the reasons as to why the coin was created, what its ecosystem consists of, the technology side, all of those different things you can find. So you're having to take that at face value, right? But you're not able to, but it's two different things. When you're buying a company, you're buying a performing uh, asset, it's a performing company that is an asset that is making sales and revenue. Bitcoin and Ethereum do not make sales and revenue. They just don't. They don't make revenue. They're not a Target, right? They're not a Dollar General. They're not an Apple. They're not a Microsoft. They are not selling products to people, right? They are a system and a unit of exchange. They are a currency, right? So they are a means of exchange, right? They are a currency. So I think when you think about it, I think truly, Bitcoin and Ethereum will in the next 18 to 24 months, I wouldn't be surprised to see them after Bitcoin halving make the same move that we've seen over the past few Bitcoin halvings. So I think it's a super strong possibility that over the next 18 to 24 months that Bitcoin goes above 40,000 again, gets to 50,000. I think it's possible that you could see Ethereum return to 3,500 to 4,000 to 4,500. So what am I saying here? I think a lot of times we always want to buy investments when everyone's talking about it, when it's peachy creamy. The toughest thing I think as any investor, right, is to buy something when there's blood, when it's been decimated, when it's had a fork put into it. That's one of the toughest times to buy an investment because it's truly difficult. It's truly difficult because there could be a lack of confidence. You could have already bought the investment maybe at a higher price and could be afraid to buy at a lower price. Maybe you don't understand what the actual investment is. And I think part of it is that people, don't understand exactly, okay, the systematic behind Bitcoin and how it actually cycles and moves. So when it comes to Bitcoin halving every 4 years, right, we go through that process. And that's what's kind of been the spark of these runs that we've seen, whether it was in 2016, 2012, 2020. What we've seen is these spikes have been vicious, 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 vicious when it came to Bitcoin and as well Ethereum. And if you've been someone during those dark years, right? For example, the ones who were rewarded were people that were buying Bitcoin in 2018, 2019, and 2020, right? They were the ones who were rewarded. Just like now, if you've been a buyer over the past 18 months, you've been rewarded. And even still now, right? You definitely have a strong possibility of being rewarded in the future. So, um, you know, just think about it. Something that I definitely am going to be talking about a lot here. Like you can count on me over the next 6 to 7 months. I'm going to be covering a lot of things when it comes to crypto, right? And Bitcoin, Ethereum are obviously the two leaders in the space, and really the two leaders that really the main two things that matter the most dealing with anything crypto. So Bitcoin, I think, has incredible upside and incredible promise as well as Ethereum. So I do believe it is time, if you have not already, to seriously consider saying, for my risk tolerance, does Bitcoin and Ethereum for me to be a holder and to buy into this asset, does it fit my risk tolerance? Right. I think it's something that you should consider. Obviously, this is a highly, highly volatile asset. But once again, the stock market is just as volatile as crypto. Do not get it twisted. Do not think that the stock market is just this safe place where it doesn't have volatility and where you can't see an investment drop 70, 80, 90%. You definitely can. And you can see it happen in any market that you're in. So I see we're about to crack 100 people. You guys do me a favor here. Make sure you guys are liking, sharing, and subscribing to the YouTube channel here tonight. Make sure you guys share this with about 5 people here, and we're going to keep this train rolling. So, earnings season preview, right? So let's discuss. Earnings season is, like I said, always my favorite season because I love to hear from the companies that we have ownership in. I love to listen to earnings calls. I love to hear from leadership. But earnings season is excited because you always get to see some crazy moves after hours too, whether it's before the market opens or after the market closes in the after hours session. I think people look forward to seeing, what ticker is going to go up 10%? What ticker is going to go up 15%? What ticker is going to shock the world this quarter? Right? I think people really always look forward to you know, getting the answer and the kind of the suspense, right, of earnings season. Because honestly, truly, you don't know what's going to happen, right? A stock could beat earnings and the stock could fall. And you're like, man, the stock beat its EPS, beat its revenue. It gave some decent guidance, but why is it down 15% after hours, right? And vice versa. You could see a stock, that missed earnings, but then the stock price soars after hours, right? And you're like, okay, well, you missed 5% here, you missed 10% here. Well, how was your stock able to go up? I think it's always interesting to see, like I said, you know, that happen, right? You're able to see, the stock price go up, the stock price go down. And I think it's that, that feeling of that suspense. I think that's one thing that drives people more and more and more. So for me, like I said, for me, when it comes to earnings season, we already know everything always kicks off with the banks. So I think the banks this quarter, I think the banks are going to actually do pretty decent this quarter. I think the banks for what they're going to be reporting for their quarter three numbers. I think the banks have, honestly done pretty fairly well up here to September 30th point here in Q3, I think the banks will report some solid beats. I think JP Morgan will exceed their numbers, and I think Goldman Sachs will. And I think the banks will set the tone for a decent earnings season to come in. So I have confidence in the banks this quarter. I think the banks perform well. And I think that, all eyes then shift right after the banks to names like Netflix and Tesla, right? So Netflix really this quarter is where you get to see, okay, well, how did the password sharing crackdown really did it affect its revenue? How did it increase it? Like some of those questions are definitely, that people had last quarter as far as the changes that they were making with Netflix household, with only one individual on one Wi-Fi network is able to use the account, and any individuals out of the house on a different Wi-Fi network can use the account still, but it will be an added cost, right? So how did that difference make as they continue to try to figure out ways of cracking down, excuse me, on the password sharing. And I think Netflix obviously has cooled down since last time earnings season here. It came into about 460, 470, went up to a high, I believe, about 484, and then Netflix came today right here. Netflix actually closed the business day at 380. So right now, Netflix is trading with a price to earnings ratio of about 40.33, a market cap of about $168 billion, right? Earnings come in on 10/18. It has an average 1 year estimate of about $443. So I think with Netflix, they're trading pretty fairly considering, their price. So I definitely think there's some opportunity for them here in the near future. So Netflix is definitely one that I'm watching this quarter. I always love Netflix. I definitely I like the way that Netflix has been able to reinvigorate themselves. I like their comeback. Netflix was kind of on the ropes for a second, and not that they were going anywhere, but they had to figure out some change. And I always tell people, man, give these companies a little bit of grace. These companies have been through the ringer. They've had opportunities to have some up and downs, been through some of the cycles. So give them some time. Give them some time to be able to adapt to maybe some structural changes that need to be made. So I definitely would say Netflix. I think after that, a name particularly, here in earnings season, I spoke on them a lot last earnings season, and they actually did fairly well when the report came out, but they're actually in the same space that they were in last earnings season, and that's Meta. Meta right now has a price to earnings ratio of 35. It's currently at 306 here. Meta's been kind of just chilling, right? It hasn't been really going lower, it hasn't really been going higher. I'm interested to see what happens with Meta, y'all. I like where Meta is from a price standpoint. Meta needs to get over 333 this earnings season. If Meta gets on over 333, I think Meta has a chance to run back to 360, 370 before the end of the year. So if there was a stock that going into earnings season, I feel confident in that can perform, it's Meta. I really think there's definitely a strong opportunity for Meta here in this earnings season. They rallied back. I gave Meta their flowers a little bit earlier today. I said, yo, when you think about the last 18, 24 months, there's been a lot of companies that have had tough times and, kind of quit. But when you take a look at Meta, there's been no quit in them, no quit at all. They figured out, Apple hit them with something that I don't know if too many companies could recover with some of the things that Apple hit them with that they had to pivot from. But Meta was able to do it. And there was a lot of people that counted Meta out. People were like, there was like this whole Meta is dead campaign. But yet Meta was still having 3 billion users a month, right? Over all across their different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, all their different conglomerates that they have, because they are just that box office. So I think Meta for me, earnings season wise, I want to see more. How much is this verification badges? How much revenue is this thing topic bringing in? I think this is a major move. I think people I also want to see ad spend. I think in 2024, if I had to say, I think you'll see the return of higher ad spend in 2024. I think more businesses will spend more money on ads, and that's really a good thing when you think about for Google and when you think about Meta. So I think there's some bullish catalysts going into 2024, that Meta's going to be discussing it, as well as Google, Alphabet Incorporated will be discussing. So I think that's another company that I'm excited to listen to, be able to see their numbers and how they come out, and how they go ahead and report. I'm also interested as well in a few more companies, right? So PayPal is one. So PayPal, and I know there's not always a lot of discussion about PayPal, particularly here from me, but PayPal is interesting to me because PayPal's really been in a bind. It's really struggled really hard. So is Square. When you think about the fintech space, the financial, those fintech stocks, like a name like PayPal and Square, both these companies, well, PayPal was over $300 and Square was pushing $300. These companies, once again, we go now taking it back to the stock market, right? Both of these companies are down over 75% from their all-time highs. Like you think about it, Square's all-time high is about $282, right? And Square is now $43. Think about that for a second. PayPal's all-time high is 300 and about 11, $12. Its stock price is $58. So I would say I want to say I'm excited, but I'm interested and intrigued. Like I want to see, like, okay, Square and PayPal, what do you guys have planned for 2024? I personally know that the numbers are going to be probably not the best from both of these companies, but what are you guys doing over there to kind of try to recover? I think PayPal got a little bit complacent and competition really creeped up to PayPal super fast. So I think that when it comes to, PayPal, I just think from a competition standpoint, competition caught up to PayPal faster than what I think PayPal thought it would. And I don't think that PayPal was in the position to really recover um, from that. So I think it's interesting when it comes to PayPal where we're at here right now. So that's one thing that I would say. We got a special guest tonight. Say what's up. You gonna teach? Still learning? All right. So we got a special guest here in the house tonight. Next company is Disney. So I know my son, you love Mickey Mouse, right? Yep. So he loves Mickey Mouse. So, Disney's going to be interesting to me this earnings season. For one, when it comes to technical analysis, right here at 81, Disney has a major support level approaching here at 78. So that's one reason. But outside of the technicals, from a business model standpoint, I think Disney needs to cut out some of its fat. There's certain assets that Disney's holding that are just not performing. And so I think Disney's going to undergo a makeover. And that makeover, I believe, in the short term is going to potentially cause some drowning in their stock where the stock is going to decline. But I think long term, if they're able to play this thing right, I think they'll be able to benefit from it. So I think that's one name that I'm interested in and really hearing from. Tesla. Obviously, I'm always interested in hearing from Tesla. Tesla's delivery numbers came out and they were about 30,000 units short of the estimate. Now, that was expected. It wasn't really any shocker, right? That Tesla ended up, pretty much missing, their delivery numbers. So coming in, you even saw today it briefly fell in the pre-market and then it still closed up $1. So the expectation was already for them to miss those numbers. So I think I'm interested to see what happens there. Boeing. Boeing will be the last ticker that I discuss and talk about here tonight. And we'll have more all month long when it comes to earnings because we're just doing a preview here. Boeing, for one, came down to 187 here today. Boeing has a huge technical level at 185.14 that you guys should pay attention to. I personally think that Boeing will drop to probably 171 within this month. And I think Boeing will potentially drop, a lot due to a miss of earnings that potentially can happen here. So I think Boeing will miss their earnings. So I think Boeing, when that miss comes out, I think that, it will drop the stock. So I definitely think that, as Boeing has its earnings come out and, Boeing stock potentially drops to maybe 171, it could come down, maybe even a little bit more outside of that. But I think news on 737 MAX deliveries. Uh, I think some shareholders are a little bit frustrated with the lack of profitability from Boeing. And they're behind a lot because they had a lot of damage to themselves as a company. So I think those are some things. But I think overall, you have the Federal Reserve interest rate decision that'll be coming out on November 1st. And the next meeting after that will be December 13th and 14th. We saw what happened in September. So this is early October here right now. I think that earnings will come out mixed. And I think what you'll see is potentially over the next couple of weeks, I think you'll see a run up into earnings. And then once those earnings come out, I believe you'll see maybe some selling off after those earnings come out. Last company I'll talk about, I know I said Boeing be last, but last company I'll talk about can't go without talking about these two companies, because let's do two. Apple and Microsoft. Um, Obviously, the debut of the iPhone 15 is here. We also have Azure cloud growth numbers that will always be factored into Microsoft. But I think Microsoft's pullback here to a healthy level that people will be actively buying it. So I think revenue will be in focus when it comes to Microsoft, and I think iPhone units will be in focus when it comes to Apple. But once again, my sleeper this quarter, I think that Meta platforms could creep up on you very fast. And I think Meta platforms could end up shocking the world and having the biggest earnings report out of all of these companies. So I think this quarter sleeper is Meta. I think there's some strong bullish case for Meta that can come out. And I think that you have some great opportunities here lying within this earnings season. To kind of wrap up the show here, to answer the question, yes, I do believe it's time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. I've seen these cycles play out over the past, like I said, since I really got started in all of this, I've seen how Bitcoin and Ethereum move when Bitcoin halving is getting ready to approach. And I've seen, right, how you have been able to be rewarded when you buy during those dark times and when you buy when no one's talking about it. So the goal is here for us to continue to have these conversations, right, as we lead up to Bitcoin halving. And I seriously, like I said, believe that for those that do the little work, get a little here, get a little there, I think you'll be rewarded when it comes to Bitcoin and Ethereum in the long run. So that is tonight's episode of Monday Night Take. I appreciate everyone being here. You got earnings season preview. And is it time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum? Yes, I believe it's time to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. It's that season once again, earnings season. Don't forget, the banks kick this party off. We go to Netflix and Tesla, and then the rest of the companies report. So we got a lot of things to unpack here this month. And this is Q4 kickoff, man. Q4 kickoff. So we have 3 months left in a year, right? How you start is not necessarily how you have to finish. And so these last 3 months of the year are all about gearing us and getting us ready for 2024. And I'll say this once again, 2024 will be life-changing. I seriously believe that the opportunities that are presenting themselves and opening up, I believe that for those that just keep their head down and work the next 12 months, right? And just continue to work, I believe in 2024, you're rewarded. These last 3 months are super vitally important. Game plan mindset, right? I said this in the beginning, right? You do the pre-planning, then you're able to plan, then you work the plan. It's as simple as that. But you got to do the pre-planning, then you got to plan, then you work the plan. And that's the execution of it all. So another episode of Monday Night Take here. I appreciate y'all. Peace.